Hey guys, welcome back to the CreditVerse channel. If you're new here, my name is Alyan, and today we're going to be going over the essential guide to miles and points. We realize a lot of our videos can get a little bit technical, so this is everything you need to know from the basics. We'll start by talking about what miles and points even are, dividing them up to a bunch of different categories, and then talking about how you guys can earn them. Then we'll take a bit of a tangent, talking about all of the terminology we use within the space, often also known as the lingo, before really diving into how you can use your points and the way you can maximize value. If that sounds exciting, be sure to hit the like button just as the video is getting started, as it lets YouTube know to recommend this to even more people who also may be able to learn. Hey guys, before we get into the video, I just want to take a second to introduce Ion here. We've been working together for the past few months, and he's a bigger points nerd than I am. You'll be seeing him a lot more in videos moving forward, so be sure to stay tuned for that. So what are credit card points? Points, often known sometimes as miles, are rewards given from credit card issuers like banks to individuals for using their card. The idea is that once you collect enough of these points, you can then redeem them for something you really want. This could be something like a gift card, merchandise, or travel rewards like hotels or flights. We'll get into this more later on in the video, but that's all you really need to know for now. Now, the reason credit card issuers can even afford to give you these rewards is because they earn a bunch of money from you using your card. There are three major ways we're going to discuss today, the most common of which is an interchange fee. An interchange fee is an amount that a vendor, let's call it an ice cream shop, has to pay the bank, let's call it TD or RBC, for you using the card at their establishment. The reason banks can charge this is because they know that credit cards or debit cards are definitely much more convenient than just carrying around a bunch of cash, and therefore vendors like that ice cream shop are willing to pay the bank. Another large moneymaker is an annual fee. This is pretty much just a membership fee, like one you'd, for example, see at Costco, for just getting a card and getting access to its perks and benefits. A lot of really solid cards in Canada have no annual fee, when other cards have $800 annual fees. So you just need to see if it makes sense to pay for the additional perks and benefits you get with a card that comes along with an annual fee. The last main way, and perhaps the largest way banks make money, is through interest charges. If you don't end up paying your credit card bill on time, interest starts to accrue on your account and you have to pay this to the bank. That being said, you can still take full advantage of all the perks and benefits and lovely rewards you get with your card as long as you pay your bill on time, which is pretty much just when your statement comes due. Make sure you're also paying the full amount and not just the minimum payment, as when you pay the minimum payment, that's when the interest starts to accrue. Now that we talked about what points are and how banks are able to really even afford giving them out, let's now talk about the different types of points. To keep it really simple, we split it up into two categories. There are store points, so points you earn for spending money at certain stores, like for example PC Optimum points or like Hudson's Bay Rewards. There's also travel points, which are also known as miles, and you can pretty much just use these points to book flights and hotels when you spend money on your credit card. In here, there's also a bit of a distinction. To try to simplify these concepts as much as possible, while still really trying to explain the more complicated concepts, I've made a flowchart and then linked it in the description below if you guys needed to follow along. First, there are point programs from hotels or airlines. For example, Air Canada's loyalty program Aeroplan has partnered up with a bunch of Canadian banks to help you get credit cards that are Aeroplan co-branded, where you can spend money on those cards and earn Aeroplan miles instead of any other type of points. It's a similar story for hotel chains like Marriott, who've partnered up with someone like American Express to offer a Marriott co-branded card, where every dollar you spend on the card, you're going to earn Marriott Bonvoy points, which you can use to redeem for hotel stays. Now on the other side of the equation, there's point programs from banks. These are also known as in-house points currencies. This could be something like TD Reward points or American Express membership rewards. You can earn these by spending money on the cards that are issued from that bank that have that points currency on them. For example, the RBC Avion Visa Infinite will earn RBC Avion points. Now diving in a bit deeper here, there's also another distinction we need to make. There's transferable points currencies and non-transferable points currencies. I know this is starting to all sound a little bit daunting. Again, don't worry, just feel free to use that flowchart we have down below. I know when I'm trying to learn something new, looking at a flowchart really helps, so be sure to just give it a try and see if it works for you. We'll start with non-transferable points currencies to keep it really simple. In this type of currency, the points you earn are the exact same one you need to redeem for things. Now you're thinking, that sounds obvious, of course the points you earn are the ones you need to redeem for things. Yes, don't worry, we'll explain it in just a second. For example, if you're using the CIBC Aventura Visa Infinite card and earning CIBC Aventura points, you now need to redeem them for things within the Aventura portal. The alternative here is a transferable points currency. This means that the points you earn are not the exact same ones you need to redeem at the very end. You can instead just transfer these points out. You can take American Express MR points and transfer them to a myriad of hotel and airline partners. For example, you can take your MR and transfer them over to Aeroplan and use them there instead. You can also, of course, just redeem within the MR program itself, but we do tend to notice that you get slightly better value by redeeming your points through a partner as opposed to directly within any program. At the end of the day, there's no right or wrong here. Store points are not inherently better or worse than travel points. It just depends on what people value at that time. If you're someone who travels quite a bit, getting a travel card that earns travel points might be the way to go. But if you're someone who just wants to get a good amount of money back on their groceries every single week, maybe just getting a points card that's from a store like PC Optimum would be the way to go, as you can definitely get better value there. Now that we've established what points are and then the different type of points, let's talk about how you guys can actually earn your points. The most obvious way to earn credit card points is just by using your credit card and spending your money on your everyday purchases, or by getting a welcome bonus on your credit card and getting those points. Another way is by engaging through the loyalty program associated with your points currency. This could be like using PC Optimum points and just looking through your app and seeing if there's any bonuses on there that you can use for your groceries that week. Or for example, when you're flying Air Canada, just putting in your Aeroplan number when you're booking your flight will help you get a couple of miles and points there. Furthermore, another really interesting way you can earn points that a lot of people don't really end up taking full advantage of is through shopping portals. You can use this web store to shop at some of your favorite stores like Amazon or Lululemon or Apple or whatever the case may be, and just get an additional number of Aeroplan points for every dollar you spend. There's also often bonus periods where you can get 10 times the number of Aeroplan points per dollar spent, or 5 times, or whatever the case may be, usually around Boxing Day or Black Friday, so be sure to look around for those as well. Sometimes if you know you're going to be spending a bunch of money, like getting all your Christmas shopping done, people will wait till Black Friday, just use the Aeroplan e-store and get 10 times the number of points on certain things, and walk away with something like 50,000 points at the end of their spend. 50,000 points is almost enough to fly one way in business class from North America to Europe, so be sure to not miss out on chances like that, where it might just make sense to just click around, see if there's any really good bonuses on some of the e-stores, Aeroplan being the main one, and seeing if you can get good value here. If you're already loaded with points, but are having a little bit of trouble redeeming them for the days you want to fly, we've recently launched a new points consulting service with CreditVerse, where we do all the legwork for you and find you the best value for your points. If that's something you guys are interested in, be sure to just fill out the form we have linked below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks. If you've watched a CreditVerse video before and heard me say something like, you can use the welcome bonus from your plat and get a 6 cents per point redemption flying Apex suites using the Aeroplan stopover feature, and thought, what is he on about? There's no way the words he's saying are actually real. Don't you worry, this section is just for you. Let's walk through some of the lingo you're going to hear in the world of miles and points. If it's easier to follow along, I've linked a list of all the terms we have in the description below. Let's start simple with the welcome bonus. A welcome bonus, also often known as a sign-on bonus, are a number of points you're going to earn just when you get a new card. To get these points, usually you need to spend a certain amount of money within a certain period of time. Another really common thing you're going to hear is cents per point. So what are these cents per point things people are throwing around all the time? Cents per point, or CPP, are just a way to measure the value you're getting out of your points. There's a way to calculate this mathematically. Take the cash price of the thing you're trying to buy, for example like a flight or a hotel, and minus the taxes and fees you're going to be paying for using your points on that same thing. With this new number you now have, you divide it by the number of points you're going to spend for getting that redemption, and then multiply by 100. We have a calculator for this built into our definition sheet, so if you want to just play around with some of the numbers, be sure to do it there, and you might be able to get a better understanding of what this mythical CPP figure really ends up meaning. For me, if I'm getting 2 cents per point on something like American Express membership reward points, or for example Air Canada Aeroplan points or Avion points, I'm pretty happy. Stopovers, not to be confused with layovers, are where you need to make a stop at a certain place for over 24 hours before reaching your final destination. For example, if you want to fly from Montreal over to Amsterdam, you can take a stopover in Zurich for a day. These stopovers are useful for when you're trying to book itineraries that the airline isn't piecing together automatically. Using our same example up there, if you want to use your Aeroplan points to get from Montreal over to Amsterdam, but can't find any direct availability, and there's no real way to get it pieced together nicely, you can just use a stopover and fly business class if that's something you really want to do. It would also make your itinerary protected, which means if something goes wrong with your first flight and you can't make your second flight, the airline has to rebook you and you're not just out of pocket by yourself. Relating to a stopover is an unprotected layover. This is where you book 2 tickets separately for 1 trip. This usually happens when you really want to fly a certain route, but you can't find any way, including with stopovers, for the airline to piece it together for you. As a result, you book these 2 things separately, which makes your itinerary unprotected. An example here, which is something I might try to do next year, is flying Finnair from LAX to Helsinki. I want to fly that really unique business class product on the A330 and the A350, but unfortunately, no places in Canada get it. As a result, I'll fly over from the West Coast to LAX and have an unprotected layover there, which means if something does end up going wrong with that first flight, and I miss my Los Angeles to Helsinki flight, it's over for me. The airline doesn't have to help me out, and the only way they would do it is through the kindness of their heart, as they're under no obligation at all. Ideally, what you can do to kind of offset this is set a 1-day layover. So just say, oh, you know what, I'll just go explore Los Angeles for the day, and then the next day I'll just be able to fly out. This means that in case something does go quite wrong, which, during the winter tends to happen pretty much all the time, you're still able to make that second flight without really having to worry about if the airline is going to rebook you. Again, related to this whole world of stopovers and unprotected layovers is repositioning. This is effectively what I'm doing for my Helsinki flight. It's where I'm going out of my way to fly to a different airport that has better availability for a product I want to fly. We'll talk about a couple of reasons you might want to do this. Repositioning and unprotected layovers kind of go together like 2 twins. Ideally, I want to get this layover protected by making it a stopover, but it's highly unlikely that the airline is going to be able to piece that itinerary together unless I'm paying with cash. An award chart is just a chart to show you how many points it takes to fly from different places within a certain airline's network. Tied to this, a distance band is found within an award chart, and it should tell you exactly how many points it takes to fly from one place to another. For example, using the Aeroplan award chart, flying from the North American zone to the Atlantic zone from over 4,000 miles to 6,000 miles should take anywhere from 40,000 to 70,000 points in economy. Y, PE, J, and F. I promise I'm not reciting the alphabet here. These letters do actually mean something pretty important. These letters signify the class of your travel. Now it differs a little bit for different airlines, but generally Y equals economy, PE is premium economy, J is business, and F is of course first class. There's a ton of other letters here, as there's a bunch of letters in the alphabet, like R, X, P, etc. We're not going to worry about that because we're just going to keep it super simple for this video. YMMV, or your mileage may vary, is another thing you're going to hear me say in a couple of videos. It pretty much just means your experience might be different from my experience. This is usually due to some unofficial policy that just gets enforced randomly based on the person. For example, when using a referral link for an Amex Cobalt, some people can end up getting the 22,000 point offer by using incognito mode, while others just get the 15,000 points offer. Therefore, in this case, your mileage may vary. With that, I'm going to hand it to our points wizard Ion to show you guys how you can redeem your points for the best value.
Thanks Alian for passing it over. Now let's talk about how you can redeem your Aeroplan points. Redeeming your points is all about the type of points that you have. If you have PC Optimum points, those are completely different to Aeroplan points. Let's start with store points. Once you have enough store points, you're able to offset the entire amount or a part of the purchase when you go to a store. A good example of this is the most common store points currency in Canada, PC Optimum. PC Optimum allows you to use 1,000 points to offset $10 on your purchase. This means that you can use it at any PC participating store like Shoppers Drug Mart or Loblaws. Moving on from store points, let's move on to travel points. This is all dependent on the type of credit card that you have. For the sake of simplicity, let's take American Express membership reward points. Those are the most flexible and the easiest to redeem in Canada. Although this is one of the best points in Canada, there are some really good ways to redeem it, and there are some pretty bad ways to redeem it as well. Some of the ways that you can use your MR points are by transferring them out to airline partners, gift cards, merchandise, or using Amex's fixed travel program. Since we are a travel focused channel, we're going to focus on transferring your points out to airline partners. For us Canadians, there are a bunch of programs that we can choose from, but for the sake of simplicity, we're going to choose Air Canada Aeroplan. Once you transfer your points out to Air Canada Aeroplan, there's a lot that you can do. You can book rental cars, vacation packages, hotels, buy merchandise, and a lot more. The easiest way to book a flight with Aeroplan points is by booking an Air Canada flight. Air Canada works on a dynamically priced model. What does that mean, you ask? That means that the cost of the flight in points is proportionate to the cost of the flight in cash. This means if the cash rate of the flight is high, then the points rate of the flight is also high. Here is an example of a flight that I found from Toronto to Vancouver. I found a flight where it costs about 24,000 points in business class, and the same thing in cash is about $1,000. If we do this for another date, it's about 72,500 points in business class and $1,500 in cash. We can see where the difference starts to come in. There are advantages and disadvantages to a program like this. On one hand, you can book as many seats as you want with points, but on the other hand, you might end up paying more in Aeroplan points than you would have liked to. One thing to note is that Air Canada's subsidiaries are also subject to dynamic pricing. This means that Air Canada Rouge, Air Canada Express, and Air Canada Jazz all have dynamic pricing. Now that we've discussed how dynamic pricing works, let's shift our focus to fixed points travel programs on partners. Most fixed points programs are usually dictated by the amount of miles flown. For the sake of simplicity, let's continue with Air Canada as an example. Although we discussed them having dynamically priced award flights, this only applies to Air Canada flights. All their partner programs are on fixed pricing programs. The first thing to understand here is what a partner airline is. A partner airline is when it's part of an alliance or a codeshare agreement. Air Canada is a great example of this. Air Canada is part of the Star Alliance team with 27 other airlines. And if we include all of Air Canada's partners, it adds up to about 57 different partners that you can use your Airplan points on. Let's do an example booking to see how you can redeem your Airplan points. The first thing that we need to decide is the origin and destination. For this example, we'll take Toronto to Lisbon. The first thing that we're going to do is take a look at the award chart. This is going to help us see how much this flight is actually going to cost. The award chart is linked in the description below, so you can follow along as I explain it. The first thing that you're going to notice when you open the document is the travel zones. You're going to see that the travel zones are represented by different colors. In this case, we know that Toronto is in the North America zone and Lisbon is in the Atlantic zone. Once you go down to the award chart, you'll find distance, the amount of points, and the class of travel. If you want to figure out the distance between the two cities that you're traveling to, just Google it. Now that we know the distance between Toronto and Lisbon is about 3,500 miles, we can go back to the award chart and see that it comes just under the 4,000 mile mark. So this means that your flight is going to cost about 35,000 points in economy class and 60,000 points in business class. If you need to know how much it costs for multiple passengers, just multiply the amount of passengers by the amount of points that you need. Now that we know how much it's going to cost, we have to go back to Air Canada's website to see if this flight is available. When going on Air Canada's website, make sure to tick the box that says book with Aeroplan points. As an example, I put January 19, 2025 as the date that I want to fly. I found multiple seats in economy class for 35,000 points and one seat in business class for 60,000 points. This means that whatever we saw on the award chart was true. You can also see that this flight is not on Air Canada, but rather on TAP Portugal, which is part of the Star Alliance. Something to keep in mind is that you do have to pay about $150 in taxes and fees depending on the flight per passenger. I know this can be a bit daunting and scary to do, but the more you practice and the more you understand codeshare agreements and alliances, the easier it gets. With that, that's everything. If you did enjoy the video, please like and subscribe since it helps us out a ton. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I'll see you later.